Folks, welcome back and Happy New Year. I have your latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending December 28th, 2022. It's the last report for last year. The next week we will have for the new year. Let me tell you though what we've seen, what we've observed, what we've experienced in the field, in the streets of Toronto over the last 4 or 5 weeks. When interest rates started to rise, affordability went from here to here. Prices that were here went to here. So there was still a gap between affordability and home prices. And as interest rates over the course of the year were increasing, affordability came down and prices came down. But there was always, in many situations, still a gap. We experienced this with our own buyers that we're working with, where things that they like just was still out of reach. One particular buyer, his pre-approval expired in the fall. We weren't able to buy and find what they liked in their price point on their first pre-approval. Now, them getting reapproved, we know they'd be getting reapproved at a higher rate, which is in fact what happened, and their affordability was even lower. So imagine the thought there, we couldn't buy before, how we're going to buy now? Well, we did manage to buy, because in more and more situations now, we're seeing selling prices coming in line. Now, there's still lots and lots of affordability issues where affordability is here and prices are here. But we're seeing, and we've experienced it more and more, where they're evening out, where the sellers have tried and have had to readjust their price, and buyers are able to buy. Still, few and far between, but they are there. We have personally experienced this. Who you hire matters. If you feel this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. Let's get into the numbers. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video, in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you. This way, I'll know ahead of time and I'll make sure my schedule's organized so we can talk about whatever's on your mind. So, are sellers adjusting to the buyer's new affordability limits? Well, at the beginning of the year, the answer was definitely not a chance. The seller was here, buyer came in. If the buyer didn't go up to the seller's price, no problem. Move over, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. The buyer next to you was prepared to pay the price. All that's changed. Over the course of the year, that's changed. And we're seeing more and more and more sellers readjusting their prices because the buyers do have an affordability issue, and the sellers will receive an offer and there might not be another offer for a long time. So the sellers are adjusting. We're seeing it more and more. Let's get into the numbers. I have here the City of Toronto broken down by week for a whole year. Now, this is going to be the last report for week ending 2022. So we have here December 28th, 2022. And I should say, sales normally, seasonally, are so low right now. So it's really hard to take these numbers extremely serious. Let's just look at them. I didn't want to skip the report, but week ending around the Christmas season and then first week of the new year, they're always a bit dodgy, the numbers, just because of the holiday season. But I do have the report here. So for week ending December 28th, 35 detached properties were sold across the City of Toronto. 8 of those were at $2 million or more. The average sold price for week ending December 28th is $1,586,000. I made some notes. I want to look at something here together. So the beginning of the year, if we look at kind of January, February, and this is just a quick look, a rough calculation. It looks like the average price around the beginning of the January and February of this year, of 2022 was about $2,050,000. And we're ending off the year, I'm looking at second part of November and December, at around $1,550,000. That's a $500,000 difference from peak to where we are now, which is a little over 24% lower pricing than where we were. So we've come down quite a bit through the course of the year in prices. The majority of the drop happened in April and May. We've been quite steady, but still declining over the last 5-6 months of the year. But it's a huge drop when you look at it this way. The current average sold price of $1,586,000 is 5% lower than where the average price was last year at this time. The median price is actually 24% lower than where the median price was last year at this time. Median price is $1,050,000. And again, this is just for the City of Toronto and only detached properties. Year-to-date sales, this is how we're going to finish the year. 33% fewer sales this year. Sorry, I'm saying this year. We're for 2022 versus 2021. 33% fewer sales and 10% fewer listings in 2022 versus 2021. Months of inventory has shot way up to 5 months of inventory. Now remember what I said, the numbers get a little bit dodgy last week and the first week of the new year, just because sales are all over the place and normally really low. But active listings are kind of still the same sometimes, and that's why you get this fluctuation. Here's Central Toronto, West and East Toronto. Let's take a close look at West Toronto. Only 15 detached properties were sold in West Toronto. 2 of those were at $2 million or more. Average sold price came way down to $1,133,000. 1,133 is 20% lower than last year's average sold price, and the median price of $950 is 29% lower than last year's median price. Months of inventory for West Toronto is sitting at 4.4 months of inventory. Here's Central Toronto, where West Toronto prices drop. Central Toronto prices went through the roof. 7 detached properties were sold. 5 of those, so almost all, sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price is way up there, almost at $3.2 million. $3.2 million, we know these are crazy numbers. It's 35% higher than last year. Median price is 43% higher than last year. That's not how the year has played out, however. Look at months of inventory, shooting up way over 10 months of inventory, 10.2 months of inventory. East Toronto, 13 detached properties were sold. 1 of those was at $2 million or more. Average sold price climbed up over the previous week, sitting at $1,239,000. 1,239 is 6% lower than last year's average sold price. The median price is 8% lower than last year's median price. When it comes to sales prices, East Toronto seems to have kind of maintained whatever course it was on in the last week of sales. Months of inventory for East Toronto is sitting at 2.8 months of inventory. Let's take a look at a quick summary here. Normally, East Toronto has the highest sales week in and week out. Not for this week ending. It's West Toronto, but East Toronto still has the lowest median price, the lowest average sold price, the lowest months of inventory. Actually, in Central Toronto, I forgot to mention earlier, 7 were sold, which is not a lot. None of those sold at list price or more. Here's a quick look at semis. 4 semis were sold. That's it. So all the City of Toronto, only 4 semi-detached properties were sold. None of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $991,000. 991 is 32% lower than where the average sold price was a year prior, and the median price of 908,000 is 37% lower than where the median price was a year before that. Months of inventory, because sales were so incredibly low in this 1 week, months of inventory shot up to 9.5. But remember what I said, it's really hard to take this as this is the way it is. It's the way it is for this 1 week, but I imagine over the next couple of weeks, things will come back in line to where they were before. Here's townhouses. 3 townhouses were sold. These are freehold townhouses. That's it. All of Toronto, only 3 townhouses were sold. None of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is sitting at $1,019,000. So $1,019,000 is 33% lower than last year's average sold price at this time. And median price of $1,055,000 is 13% lower than where the median price was a year ago. Months of inventory for freehold townhouses is sitting at 4.8 months of inventory. So here's condos. 60 condos were sold for week ending December 28th. That's more than half of what was sold the previous week. And 6 of those were at $1 million or more. Average sold price came down to $722,000. But let me do the same exercise for condos that I did for detached. When we look at the beginning of the year, January, February, part of March, and I kind of just look at this general area of what we call the peak, average price for condos was sitting at about $850,000. When I look at the last month and a half, the way we finished the year, average sold price for condos is sitting at about $750,000. That's a $100,000 drop over the course of the year, which is about 12%. 12% from the peak. So that's it. Condos have come down over the course of the year, about $100,000 from the peak, which is a 12% drop. Compared to last year, or compared to a year ago, 722 is 1% lower than where the average price was a year ago. Median price of $614,000 is 5% lower than where the median price was a year ago. Year to date, 2022 versus 2021, we have 37% fewer condo sales in 2022 versus 2021, and 10% fewer listings. Months of inventory for condos, given the fact that in 1 week sales went from 128 to 60, the new revised months of inventory for that 1 week ending is sitting at 7.8. But remember what I said, don't take that so serious. Here's a quick summary of all the months of inventory. Look, with sales dropping as low as they have and active listings not adjusting so much, we're going to get these huge fluctuations in months of inventory. There's some information here that could be useful. Some of it, don't take it so seriously. Hope you had an awesome 2022, and I know 2023 is going to be way better for all of us. Have a great day.